The art of conversational content. At the forefront of making B2B marcomms more authentic, along with communicating with your audience on an emotional level, is the ability to communicate as we would speak normally. Now, who'd have thought that we'd have to make a concerted effort not to write or produce content which has the same flow and comatosing qualities of the terms and conditions section of a vehicle hire agreement? It happens to the best of us, and it's a challenge to break free and get back to writing content which emotes and connects with people. So this week on the show, we'll get a complete understanding of the problem at hand, as well as discovering how to master writing like you talk. Hello and good afternoon. My name's James Rostance and this is the 414 Live this Thursday afternoon, and it's for you as a professional B2B marketer. Whether you work in-house at a company doing incredible B2B marketing at a B2B company, or if you're doing equally awesome work at a B2B agency. Or indeed, if you're a company executive with a hands-on role with your company's sales and marketing activities. So every week, I speak with some of the greatest and most interesting minds in B2B marketing so that you can directly expand and enhance your professional knowledge with every single episode. This week, we're going to be concentrating on conversational content. It's a tough one to master, but very important to get right. But before we cross over live to Georgia in the United States of America, where my guest is standing by live right now, let's do the roll call of honor for awesome people who've subscribed to the show at the414.net to receive weekly email updates. Shout out to roll call of honor this week, including Zora Canada, Katie Fretwell, Daniel Fennick, Jill Maracucci, Chris Jarvis, Rebecca Skinner, Gabrielle Walsh, and Mark Collins. Thank you very much, you guys, for subscribing every single week. They will not miss an episode from now on because you get a weekly email update with a rundown of the show and a link to join the show live. And if you haven't already, it's www.the414.net to sign up there by email, or if you want to, through your podcasting app. And on the website, you can check out all previous episodes. That's the one. Whoa. There we go, 414. Welcome along then. Thursday, the 6th of May today. So now, as promised, we're going to dive right into the subject of conversational writing. And I've got a standout expert on the show waiting for you today, joining me live from Atlanta, Georgia, United States of America. Please welcome Mr. Darek Black. Good afternoon, Darek.
Hi, good afternoon, James. How you doing?
Pretty good, thank you very much. Yeah,
glad.
This is a great one to be covering. Thank you so much for joining, because it is just super important. I think that's one of my buzz terms, super important. But in the drive to make marcomms more authentic and engaging, it really is down to talking with people in a conversational manner and actually connecting with them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's exactly what it's about. It's about connecting, having that one-to-one, having that personal touch, that personal feel. Because when someone's engaging with your content, they're doing it, usually like by themselves in the room, reading it or watching it. So you want to make it where you're addressing them, where it's as if you're talking to them, and that'll help pull them in and feel involved and feel engaged.
Nice. And that's what I'm hoping you're going to deliver fully on today, of empowering our viewers and listeners to fully, quote, I'm going to quote you on that, fully engage their audiences and target customers.
No problem.
So
looking forward to it.
Well, let's start it off then. I think a good place to start would be for you to start off with telling us, what are the things which annoy you when it comes to content?
I would say the thing that annoys me the most is content in which it talks down to the reader, and in which it makes the reader feel kind of like belittled while reading it. I think the content that works best is where you're talking to the reader as if both you and the reader are on the same level, and you're just sharing information or sharing something with them and sharing that as if they're a friend, not more so where you're on this high pedestal and the person that's reading or observing your content is on a slow pedestal. You guys are both here and you're having an exchange, and it's friend to friend. And I feel like that's the best way. The content I don't like is content where it kind of makes the reader feel small for not knowing the information that you're providing. That's the type of content I hate the most. And the content that comes off as kind of being dismissive to whoever it is that is trying to target. That's the type of content that I dislike the most.
I think that's a really good thing to pick up on, actually. It must be an awful position to be in if you realise now that, oh crikey, that's what I do in copywriting or in any stuff that you're putting out. So, well,
Mhm.
hey, good point to start off on. Definitely one to avoid. So, what
Right.
would be the real world impact of, as you say, were you to be in a situation where you're talking down to your audience in some way? And could also throw in the
Mhm.
mix here as well. Is there? Oh, no, tell you what, let me just throw that question to you first. I've got a follow on already. So, yeah, what would be the real world implications of figuratively talking down to the audience?
Yeah, and so in doing that, you just you kind of I strongly believe that with content, you want your content to empower your reader or listener. You want the reader or listener to feel like a better version of themselves and feel confident enough to implement or use whatever you're suggesting. And you want them to feel inspired. And the implications of talking down to them and talking down to your reader is that the reader comes away. First of all, they're not going to want. No one wants to be talked down to, but the reader comes away with feeling discouraged, and that's not what you want your prospect or reader to do. You want them to feel encouraged, inspired, so that they can act out or carry out whatever call to action that you have in the end. You want to galvanize them. You want to inspire them. And once you put in those elements and you appeal to them and inspire them and you throw that into your content, you'll encourage the reader to or listener to do what it is that you want them to do, whether that's subscribing to your website or buying your product or service. When you inspire them, you encourage them, and it makes them want to act.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I think that's and it all connects with being conversational. It all connects. It's like an exchange, and it all connects. It all connects.
It's the way to go. Okay. Just as you were starting that answer, I guess Sally Hoare, who's a regular viewer of the show, she wanted to jump in and say excited for the topic today. So thank you very much
Okay.
for that, Sally.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
well, I suppose the next question then. So you've
Mhm.
covered nicely what definitely what to stay away from. I should
Right.
ask actually, is there anything else that's definitely one to be avoiding in terms of approach to conversational content writing?
Got you. Got you. The thing to be avoided is, um, well, you want to avoid over making the content overly focused on yourself.
Hmm.
You want the content to be focused on the person reading it, because studies have shown and research has shown that we have like a self bias. So, and being that we want to get the attention of who it is that where we hope to read our content, you want to make it as you centric as possible. You want to make it as focused on you want your content to be focused on how it will benefit the reader, how what they can get out of it, and you don't want it to be too self-involved or talking too much about yourself. If you are telling a personal story, um, it has to somehow connect to the reader's benefit, and the reader has to be able to see themselves in whatever personal story that you're telling, and you have to connect it to the reader, so the reader can um, see how they fit within that picture. So I think that the best thing, you want to avoid making it, the writer wants to avoid making it too centered on themselves, but focus on making it centered on the reader, so that the reader can feel more engaged and more involved and more interested. Because, like I said earlier, we're interested in things that relate to us. And since we want our readers' attention, we have to make sure that we make content that focuses on their benefits and what they can get out of it. So I think
Perfect.
that's key.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to building up to the question that I'm definitely need to ask, which is how to actually set about doing it properly. It's always good to start with the ground, setting the ground for what not to do. But now we can go into, I guess, your prescription for how to do it properly.
Yes.
Gamdan Alriki's watching the show today. He's liking the topic. Good afternoon, Gamdan, regular friend of the show, and always up for improving his ever-growing B2B knowledge. Thank you so much. Well, look, yeah. So, in that case, what is it that you would prescribe as the best approach for the way to write content?
Got you. I feel the best approach is first to, when you're deciding what topic you're going to go with, first you have to have an objective in mind, and that objective has to match what your reader, the interest of your reader. So what you would do is, I find like the best approach is, or one of the best approach is to, when you're writing your article or content, you do it in a way as if you're writing a letter and addressing it to a friend. And when you take on that mentality as if you're addressing it to a friend, naturally, the words "you" would come up. Naturally, you'd make it centered and focused on your reader. Naturally, you would avoid saying super complex words that kind of push the reader in their head and throws off the reading trance. So naturally, you do things like that. Naturally, you'll have shorter sentences, and it'll just come out naturally, as if you're writing an email to someone, or as if you're writing a letter. Now, I'm not saying you want to be too loose with the grammar. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you still want to, the emphasis is clarity, but just take on the mentality. I feel that you're just writing it as if you're writing a letter to a friend, and in so doing that, once you take on that mentality, you'll naturally have compassion. Those emotions will naturally come out of you. Compassion, empathy, that'll all rise organically, and it makes for a more smoother process. And then once somebody's reading it, it's more engaging and more entertaining, because it's like the person reading it looks at it and is like, this is as if this person, this author, wrote this for me. It's as if this is a letter directed at me. So I think that's having a letter writing mentality, but still, observing some of the more important grammar rules.
Okay. Does this apply to all content that a B2B marketer would put out, or does this only apply to certain types of content?
I feel it applies to all content, because in all aspects, when you're creating a content, you're creating it for your prospect to read. So say if you're basically, what it all boils down to is, any piece of content that you do, you're selling something. It may not be you're selling, even if you're doing just regular content marketing or writing writing an article, even if you're not selling directly a product, you're trying to buy their time. So that being the case, you want the person to feel like that you're talking to them, because just as you would in a normal sales environment, you would have like a one-on-one conversation, or if you're in a room with somebody, you'd be talking to them, or if they're just listening to you and you're giving your case or explaining things to someone, that would normally be the scenario. And it kind of connects with an article or any form of content, no matter what the niche is. You want someone to read it, and that reader, you want to have a conversation with that reader so that they can trust you and act on what it is you're saying. So I feel it fits within any type of niche, because in every scenario, even B2B, businesses are run, as you know, by people. So it's the person that runs the business is a person, just, so it's still a human to human connection, even though it's B2B, because the business, the business is a representation of the person that runs it.
Nice.
So
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you. I had a feeling that might be the case, but I definitely wanted complete confirmation that that would be applied to all comms. All right.
Right.
I guess on the following on from that, then would be. I just wanted to actually, before we do scoot on. So the key elements that I got from that was that certainly clarity playing a huge part, but
Yes.
also the use of short sentences as well.
Yes.
I have seen a lot of that actually, and yeah, now you're mentioning it, it does connect better or make you want to read it. I think that's a key part, isn't it?
Yes.
Especially with it always makes you smile. The "too long don't read" acronym.
Oh, yeah.
That's a real sort of problem now, isn't it?
Yes.
How
Yes,
long
definitely.
how long have good copywriters been onto that?
Oh,
This "too long don't
I
read" thing.
yeah, I feel that great copywriters they've always been onto that. It's always about making, bringing that sense of humanity, that sense of connection, that sense of, um, you want to earn, because ultimately you want to earn trust. And to earn trust, the saying, "No like and trust." To earn trust, the the person reading your content has to feel like that you're an actual human being, that they can relate to you, that you're a friend, that they like you. So it's something I feel that copywriters have always done. and and to let you know, as far as um having my fascination with writing conversationally, it started from observing, like with the legendary copywriters, say, like, like Clayton Makepeace, Joseph Sugarman, all of the legendary copywriters. They all talk about how you want to do things like use the word you want to make it feel like a conversation. You want to do those things, and all of that translates to an article. All of that translates to any form of copy, any form of writing. So it's something that I feel that the great copywriters always um, advocate doing that, making it conversational, because they always say is it's a conversation. You're having a conversation with your reader.
Absolutely. Excuse me. Let me just call up some comments that are coming in here. So Sally
Okay.
Hoare, who's strongly watching today's show, she says something I was advised recently was not to think of B2B or B2C for content, but P2P, person to person. And
Yes.
that's been very useful for
Yes.
her. Solid, solid. Thank
Exactly,
you, Sally.
Sally.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's person to person. It's person to person.
Yes. Oh, excuse me. And Gamdan's got a question for you as well. On that
Mhm.
case, you up for this? He says,
Yes,
"What?
I'm up for it. I'm up for
Right,
it.
bring it." Okay.
Excited. Yes.
So Gamdan asks, "What do you think of creating content based on customer questions?" I
Ooh.
like this. Thank you, Gamdan.
I think that works, because with uh as far as customers, the feedback you get from customers' questions, with that is you get an understanding of the things that your customers, want to know about, their concerns. You get to see what language they use. You get to see um, what different talking points, what different topics you can address. So when you, as far as reviewing customer questions, you get to take a peek inside of their mind, inside of what the things that matter to them, and then you can just take that research and then you can just work it into your marketing. So I feel it was very important to do things like surveys, um, observing customers' questions, asking questions of your customers. You get a lot of feedback. You find out if what you're doing is working, or if you need to make any changes. Or so I think is very, very helpful. And
Nice.
then you can, yeah, very helpful.
Hey, a second ago, you touched on briefly about the copywriting greats. Um,
Yes.
it would be really cool. So to find out, who is it that you would list as your distinct
Who?
favorites as copywriting greats for people to maybe look into and study as well?
Yes, yes. Ooh, okay, okay. Um, I think people should study anything that Clayton Makepeace
Hmm.
has written. He's a legendary copywriter within finance and the health niche. To study anything Clayton Makepeace has written, study his sales letters, any of his articles. He's one of the copywriters that whose work I like to study. Another one is like I said earlier, Joseph Sugarman. His book, The Ad Weeks Copywriter Handbook. Um, that book has a lot of great information. Another one is Masterson. That was his pen. That's his pen name, but it's Mark. Mike. It's Mark Morgan Ford. Masterson.
Yeah.
He's another copywriter to study that I've learned a lot from. Um, Him along with Bob Bly. Bob Bly. He has some great material. His website as well, bly.com, has a lot of great information. Um, from Mainly them, copyblogger.com. That's a good one. But as far as specific copywriters, Clayton Makepeace, Joseph Sugarman, uh, David Ogilvy, um, Bob Bly. There's so many. Oh, Gary Halbert. He has there's a website of his, the Gary Halbert letter, that has a lot of great information on there. And yeah, and I noticed with a lot of the Claude, a lot of the great copywriting legends to study are the legends from 40s, 50s, 60s, and what I like to do is, you can study, say for instance, let's say Clayton Makepeace, for example, right?
Hmm.
You study his work, and then you look at the people who influence him, and you look at, say, Gary Bensavinga. That's another one. He has a website, Marketing Bullets. You study the greats, and you also study who the greats studied, because there's that the influence. There's always, you have the greats, and then you have who influenced the greats. You study them, and you study who influenced those greats, and then you just piece it all together. You file all the information that you're learning about. You put it all in your subconscious, and then you then you'll have and then you add your own voice, your own flavor to it, and you have this big, nice mix that you can work with, and you just continue studying and learning from these greats.
I think that's a really good um, concept to share and make known. Actually, I remember when I first, I guess, discovered this, it was incredible to learn that, yeah, as you say, the greats, their work is from 100 years ago,
Yes.
which is just mental when
Yes.
you think about it. And
Right?
so yeah, the originals, that was 100 years ago, and then the guys on Madison Avenue, they studied from them, and they did all their great,
Yeah.
legendary work. And then you had all the stuff from the
Yes.
80s, and now you've got people making billions with their copywriting now. But it all stems back from those people. So yeah, absolutely
Yes.
solid. And, thank you for covering that.
Oh
The
yeah, no
concept,
problem, no
yeah, the
problem.
concept
Right?
of
It's
needing,
so amazing, like, right? How that works. It's
yeah. Uh, I
right.
know what would be cool on the post for this, and I can include this in the show notes as well. Would you be up for putting together a text list of everyone that you've just mentioned, just so that
I
people
would
can?
love to do that.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, yeah, just so that everyone can easily click to research those people, and who knows, possibly even get a book if they really want to study from the best.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
as well
I
as
would love
yourself,
to
of
do that.
course. But yeah, I'm talking about the
Oh, I'm
younger,
about to
younger.
go. They're the best. I'm a student myself, so I'm still. I myself, I'm still trying to um, have even a more and more better understanding of writing conversationally. And I'm a student just like everybody else. I try to
Mm,
study the greats. I read their articles, every day. Read their books. So I'm a student myself. So yeah,
best
just
way to
just
best way to be.
continuous learning, just nonstop learning. Then you learn something and you're like, oh wow. Then you find out there's something else you need to learn, and then there's so many elements. Because as you know, with copywriting is okay, you want to write well, and then I was reading, actually, speaking of Clayton Makepeace, I was reading an article from Clayton Makepeace that he had wrote. I was reading an article yesterday, and he was talking about how um, you don't want to, as a copywriter, you don't want to just focus on being a great writer or writing well. That's only part of it. You also want to study persuasion. You also want to study sales. So, and I find that there's just so much out there. It's just like so many books to read, so many articles to read, so many copywriters and sales letters to study, and yeah, it's just real fascinating, really fascinating.
100%. Well,
Yeah.
with all of that said, what would you say are some of your
Mhm.
favorite examples or current favorite examples of work that's been well done and embraces everything that you've just covered, really?
Okay. Yeah, I would say the best when I first started learning about copywriting and content marketing, the first place that I started like really, really learning this stuff and understanding this stuff was from Copyblogger. Um, Copyblogger, a lot of their articles, they the whole Copyblogger website, the whole concept of Copyblogger is combining copywriting and article writing, and combine it and using copywriting principles and using that for article writing. And that's where I first learned about that concept. And so, reading Brian Clark's work, as far as seeing examples of writing conversationally and writing to a way where you're combining, having, making sure you have your call to action, making sure you do things like Joseph Sugarman recommends, which is having you have your subheads and you have your headline, and everything is designed for the reader to read the first line of your article or copy. So just having that mentality of making sure that your image, your headline, your subheads, that you make it as intoxicating, as inviting, as alluring as possible to pull your reader into reading that first line. And then reading after that your second line, and the next thing you know, he calls it a slippery slide. Next thing you know, the reader is just pulled in and they can't stop reading it. And not only Joseph Sugarman's talked about the element as far as like with ads and sales letters, but understanding and reading websites like Copyblogger shows how you can apply that mentality to articles or all forms of content and just pull your reader in and just have them, you know, as if going down a slippery slide where they can't, they're basically pulled in. They can't, it's like
Yeah.
magnetic. So Brian Clark, a copy blogger, another example where I read a lot of great content is from John Morrow at Smart Blogger. Um, he also uh, use those copywriting principles within his content. So those were the two that I've learned a lot from as far as um, having that approach where it's conversational and uh, putting copywriting elements in your content. Another one is Neil Patel, but yeah, but mainly copy blogger, smart blogger, Brian Clark,
Hmm.
um, John Morrow, and also the Neil Patel website.
Really? Okay. I'd
Mhm.
always viewed him as a technical SEO chap, but you actually rate his style of writing then?
Oh no, I don't write in his style.
No, no, no. I
I
mean, sorry.
oh
That you rate, as in you like or respect his
oh yeah,
style
yeah, I
of
like his.
writing. Really?
Yeah, what I learned from reading Neil Patel's content is that making sure that you link to studies, link to research, that you have examples. I learned a lot from reading his articles and making sure you do that. And that kind of it basically that kind of combines the copywriting principle of credibility and proof, but
Mm.
making sure you put that in your articles. So if you make any type of claim, that you back it up either with a quote or a link to some study or some research. And in doing that, that gives you more credibility. That helps the reader trust you more. And then when you combine that with being conversational, you put all that together, you just have a recipe for engaging content, not only engaging, but content that where it's credible. And because what I like to do is I understand with content that I write that in most cases the reader that's reading it, in all likelihood, they've never heard of me and they don't know anything about me. So what I like to do is I like to take the approach of, okay, I'm the equivalent of a stranger talking to someone and explaining something to someone, especially being the fact that they, in all likelihood, they've never heard of me. I want to do things where I show proof, I reference studies, I show research, and that way my words have more power. They have more emphasis because everything I'm saying is backed up by proof and research. And it's kind of like the concept of how in court they say like the term is guilty by association.
Yes.
It's kind of like when you use authority, you use authoritative sources and you link to authoritative sources and you use their quotes, you can kind of look at it as authority by association. So you borrow some of their authority to make your message stronger and more impactful. And then you find that as you're writing or speaking, you find that it's like you're using like it's like you have superpowers because you have the it's like you have the research and um, experts to back up what you're saying, which makes everything you're saying so much stronger. So it kind of lessens the fact that, okay, the reader is like, okay, I've never heard of this person. I don't know if I can trust this person, but I know who Robert Cialdini is.
Hmm.
I know who this psychologist is, and this person just reference a quote or a study from this psychologist that I know and respect. So it's like, okay, the points this I believe this person's credible because I can tell that this person is backing up everything that they're saying. So it's like you take that principle of like with copywriting or if you're writing a sales letter and just apply that to article writing And Neil Patel is one of the writers that I've seen consistently do that, and also too the writers at cxl.com, which was previously Conversion XL, do that. And the writers at Content Marketing Institute, the Content Marketing Institute writers do that, and even
Hmm.
outside of the marketing field, you have companies like Reebok. Reebok, for instance, they have an article. They had an article on running, and they've referenced studies. They link to studies from different uh, physical trainers and research and psychologists and things of that sort. So even Reebok, a brand as well known as Reebok, they've they link to studies, they link to research within their content to back up and add credibility to what they're saying. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, on the subject of, well, obviously still on the subject of writing, Gamdan would like to put another question to you. He says, here we go. Do you recommend creating content in-house or outsourcing it with regard to this somewhat specialized approach to conversational
Ooh.
content? Yeah.
Ooh, that's a tough one. And to be completely honest, um, with the question, I don't I don't have all the content that I write. I write myself, so I don't have experience with um, having somebody else or working with somebody else to write content. But I think it all boils down to making sure the person is familiar with the topic or is willing to do the research necessary, but also, just like we talked about before, that person is willing to cite studies and back up everything they're saying,
With you. Yeah.
and make sure that person is willing to invest in research, because when you invest in research, that gives you a better chance to have higher quality content, because any type of great content, the foundation of that great content is a lot of research. So if you're going to outsource content, you want to make sure that whoever you're working with shares the same principles as you, that they care about research, that they care about citing their sources, that they care about quality and making their content digestible and easy to read, and knowing certain things that they can do to make it more engaging, and check out their samples. But that's really my take on that.
I think that is a solid one as well. Actually, it's always a tricky question to answer. Should you outsource
Right.
X or Y? And
Yes.
what I definitely got from that is that so long as they're in line with the overall mission and they're a good
Yeah.
fit, then you
Yeah.
can. But otherwise, no. If they're at the same time not a good
Right.
fit and in line with what you're trying to achieve and the style you're going for. Okay,
Exactly.
Gamdan,
Exactly.
I hope that was a solid enough answer there. I thought we did
Yeah. Hope
pretty damn
so.
good.
Hope
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, look, I suppose I was asking my final question in that case, which is, what would you like the audience to have as a core takeaway from all of this with regard to the art of conversational content?
Oh, okay.
What?
All right. I think the important thing that I would like the audience to take away is, when you're writing or with any forms of content, you want to make sure that your mind stays flexible, that it's you don't want to be rigid. You want to be flexible. You want to make sure that with any content that you're writing, that it feels free, that it flows out, um, that we have the grammar rules, and of course you want to honor um, the grammar rules that you should never break. But in certain cases, there are some grammar rules that you may. It's all about clarity. So if a grammar rule, specific grammar rule, if honoring a grammar rule is gonna make it where your reader's not going to understand what you're saying. Just I feel you should break that grammar rule to make it more clear, to add clarity. So a lot of times I think is when I had to get out of this habit myself, when you're so obsessed about how your grammar is, it kind of puts you in your head and you're not as free. You're not as free to be creative. You're not as free to explore. And you want to have that element of exploring, of being free. And another important element is you want to have the enthusiasm. You want to have fun. When you're having fun writing and you hype yourself up and you bring the fun to it and show your enthusiasm and address it as if you're talking to a friend and put all those elements in it, you'll find that the writing process or the creating content process is a lot easier because you removed all the barriers in your mind and you're just having fun and you're just treating it as if the conversation that James and I are having, that we're having right now, where it's just loose, free, and just organic, and you bring that to your content, that loose element, that free element, you have fun. And in doing that, the reader, when you're having fun and you're enjoying it, the reader reads it and feels more engaged because they can feel that you're having fun. They can feel that the person who wrote it enjoyed doing it. So I think that's the key takeaway. Just make sure you stay flexible, stay, free-minded, have fun, do your research, trust in the research that you do. And then once you do all the research that you can do, you just let it all come out through your subconscious, have fun, and just, and I'll always understand you do have the editing process. So, when you're editing, that's where you can just kind of wipe the dust off the diamond that you have. You can prune, you can get it more sharp. So always remember that you have editing and you have chances to revise it and make it better and touch it up. So it's just staying open-minded and staying flexible. I would say that's my advice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think everything that you've just covered there, I absolutely wouldn't add anything to it. I think that's really cool.
Oh.
And what I got from the takeaway from that is that everything you've just covered really does come from a frame of being authentic. And
Yes.
sure enough, you've fully delivered on the promise of the show today, which is about
I hope so.
writing and communicating conversationally. And
Yes.
that does seem to be the key for communicating authentically with people and connecting with them emotionally as well.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Nice.
It's all connected. Conversational, emotional, empathetic. It all connects. And then when you combine having your research in there, that's authoritative and that's credible. It's all connected. It all flows together. As
Nice.
as like you're saying.
Perfect.
So
Well, hey,
yeah.
Mr. Darek Black, live from Atlanta, Georgia this afternoon, morning where you are, because you're on East Coast time, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
It's about 12, but it's a little past morning, about morning time. Not too
Right, so
far.
you've got a full day of work
Yeah.
ahead, whereas here in the UK, we're done.
Oh, what time is it around there? Like
10,
5:30, is it? 6
yeah,
o'clock?
10 to 6 right now. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, there we go.
oh wow.
But anyway,
That's
thank you ever so much for joining us today. This has
oh,
been cool,
thank you so
and
much. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you
absolute
so much
pleasure.
for having me. And I'm really enjoying being here and and talking to you. And thank you so much for inviting me and you know inviting me to be on your podcast and having me here. And I'm enjoying.
Doing
I've
your thing,
enjoyed
yes.
our conversation.
It's been a pleasure. Brilliant
It's
stuff.
been a
Thank you.
pleasure as well.
Your star.
Pleasure as well.
And well, if you've enjoyed watching, then please do, if you haven't already, here we go, web address on screen as usual, www.the414.net for all previous episodes and subscription options. 414.net. There we go. And yeah, every single week I speak with some of the greatest and most interesting minds in B2B marketing so that you can directly expand and enhance your professional knowledge with every single episode. It's something different every week. And just as we thought we've maybe covered one topic, we come along and find a different angle to do, just as we did last week with ABM. Who'd have thought B2B marketing is a darn interesting field to be working in, and you can always be learning something. Nice. Well, hey, look, my name's James Rostance. I'll see you here same time next week on the 414 Live.